But I think you could do worse than a Luffler if some of you softs don't sleep in on the bed. Take it easy. The ad is over. It felt like home in Mayberry because of Andy Griffith. Many people fell in love with the show. The town was peaceful and the people were nice. But did you know that behind the scenes things weren't always so nice? Fans loved every weird figure, but Andy really didn't like any of them. It wasn't just a mild dislike either. He really didn't like working with this co-star. Because their fight felt so real, it made the show tense. It's shocking, right? This off-screen action might come as a surprise for a show about a small town. Come with us as we learn more about Andy's life, his hit show, and the co-star he could not stand. From a small town to big hopes. She was born on June 1, 1926 in a small North Carolina town called Mount Airy. Carl and Geneva Griffith had no other children besides him. At first, life wasn't easy. They did not even have a crib or bed for him. As a baby, Andy slept in the drawers of his dresser until his family could buy a house. Andy was 3 years old when his dad got a job as a helper, or carpenter, in 1929. They finally bought a house on the poor side of town at that point. Knew as a child that his family wasn't rich. He knew that some people in his neighborhood thought less of people from other neighborhoods. He was quiet at school because of it, but he soon found something great. People would laugh at him. That made everything different. He opened up a little at a time. Andy found his love for the arts at Mount Airy High School. He joined the theater group at school and fell deeply in love with swing music. Being raised as a Baptist also played a part. He became very close with a priest in the area named Ed Mickey. Andy learned to sing and play the trumpet from Ed, who was in charge of the church brass band. He had faith in Andy and helped him get better as a talent all through high school. Andy was thrilled to get a part in Paul Green's play The Lost Colony after he graduated in 1944. The show is about the first people who came to Roanoke Island. He did it for a number of years and worked his way up to the part of Sir Walter Raleigh, after whom North Carolina's capital city is called. But there was more to come. Andy then went to NC State University in Chapel Hill to study. He first wanted to become a Moravian priest, but music soon called to him again. He changed his major to music and joined the Carolina Playmakers, a group known for the plays they put on. He also became the head of Phi Mu Alpha Sinfonia, the university's music club. Andy was in operettas like The Chimes of Normandy, The Gondoliers, The Mikado, and HMS Pinafore while he was at UNC. He got his degree in music in 1949 and began teaching music and theater at a high school in Goldsboro, North Carolina. Carl Cassell was one of his students and went on to become a well-known radio host. Andy wanted to do more than teach, though. He had tales to tell and a stage calling out to him, a talent at telling stories. Andy's work didn't start out with movies or TV shows. He first became famous for telling fun stories. His early work, called What It Was Football, became one of his most well-known. Andy played a priest in a country who didn't know how to play football in the story. The speaker talks about everything in a way that is both confusing and funny. In 1953, the speech came out as a record. It was a hit by 1954, going to number 9 on the charts. People could tell Andy was different because of that one piece. And he had a unique way of making you laugh while telling a story that you could picture. His voice, what made him stand out were his timing and attitude. Soon, though, TV came calling. Andy was in a 1-hour TV play called No Time for Sergeants in 1955. It played on the big hit show Steel Hour in the U.S. at the time. He played Will Stockdale, a country boy who joins the U.S. Air Force. A few months later, Andy brought the same part to Broadway in New York because people loved it so much. He was up for a Tony Award for his work in the full-length version of No Time for Sergeants. He didn't win the Tony, but he did win the 1956 Theatre World Award, which is given to new artists who show promise. The critics liked it. The New York Times said that Andy's charm wasn't just for the theater. He played the same part in a 1958 movie based on the book No Time for Sergeants, which was a big hit. This time, he worked with Don Knotts, who played a strict police officer. That match turned into something special, and the two became friends for life. A lot of people think that the TV comedy Gomer Pyle, USMC, which also had a country boy in the military, got its idea from this movie. Andy was still able to surprise people, though. He took his next big step in Hollywood, but it wasn't for fun. a darker part, and a more profound skill. A Face in the Crowd, which came out in 1957, was Andy's first movie role. The movie wasn't funny. It was a strong story about a man who gets too powerful when he becomes famous. Andy played a drifter who becomes famous as a TV show and changes when he gets too rich and bossy. In that part, he showed a different side of himself. The movie was written by Bud Schulberg and directed by Elia Kazan, who's known for telling thrilling stories. Worked with famous people like Tony Franciosa, Patricia Neal, and Walter Matthau. Lee Remick's first movie role was also in it. Years later, Andy talked about working with director Kazan and shooting a scene with Remick's character in a short documentary that came with the DVD. He thought back to how Kazan helped him get ready and how stressful the first scene was. He also said that the movie got more fans over time, even though it wasn't a big hit at first. This dramatic part showed that Andy wasn't just a funny country guy. He could also play serious and deep roles. Very soon, his face would be seen all the time on American TVs. We're now on the way to Mayberry. The first time Andy was seen on TV was in 1955 in the teleplay No Time for Sergeant. Things really took off in 1960, though. In that year, Andy had a small part in an episode of Danny Thomas's show Make Room for Daddy. Andy played a sheriff in a small town who was also a judge and the editor of the town newspaper in that show. It was an easy story. Someone in Danny's story was pulled over for going through a stop sign. There was something unique about Andy, though. That show turned out to be a sneak peek for the Andy Griffith Show. It was a smart way to start a new show without having to make a different pilot. Herb Leonard, who produced both shows, saw Andy's ability and made a whole world around it. That's when Mayberry came to life. This is The Andy Griffith Show. The Andy Griffith Show first aired on CBS in September 1960. It was clear from the first show that something special had been made. Sheriff Andy Taylor was played by Andy Griffith. He was a widower who lived in the quiet North Carolina town of Mayberry. He was more than just the sheriff, he was also the town's wise man. He helped people, fixed problems, and kept everyone calm. But did you know that they didn't film the show in North Carolina? That's where most of it was filmed. Parts of the movie that took place outside were shot at 40 acres in Culver City, California. They thought it was real, though. A lot of people wanted to visit Mayberry, even though it was only on TV. Andy starred with his real-life friend, Don Knox, from 1960 to 1965. Andy's partner and best friend, Don played Deputy Barney Fife. During the first few shows, they were even called cousins. They say Cousin Andy and Cousin Barney in one scene. But in the end, that plan was dropped. Instead, they were just friends who had been together since they were kids. Opie, Andy's son, was played by Ron Howard, who was only a kid at the time. People really liked how close the father and son were. Even though Andy was never given credit for writing the show, he helped shape every story behind the scenes. His goal was for the show to seem spontaneous, and it did. People liked and laughed at Don Knotts' part. He got a lot of Emmy Awards. Frances Bevere, who played Aunt Bee, also won in 1967. But it's strange that Andy Griffith himself was never nominated for an Emmy. He didn't seem to care much. People couldn't stop laughing at him. Andy was ready for something new in the end, though. Going away from Mayberry, Andy had one more season left on his deal with CBS in 1967, but he made a big choice. He was leaving the show. He wanted to try new things after years of playing Sheriff Taylor. Maybe even movies. It was hard to decide. People still really liked the show. Andy thought it was time, though. The show didn't end right away. After that, it changed into Mayberry RFD, and Ken Berry played a new hero who was named Sam Jones. Sam was a farmer instead of a sheriff, and had lost his wife too. These characters went on for a long time, either as regulars or as guest stars. Andy worked as an executive director and helped out behind the scenes. After that, he said he would check the scripts and give comments once a week. Andy was even in 5 episodes of the new show. He married Helen Crump, a school teacher, in the pilot episode, which was one of them. Fans felt like Andy's love story was over. After many years, Andy came back as Sheriff Taylor for one last adventure in the 1986 TV movie Return to Mayberry. He got back together with Don Knotts and the rest of the group. After that, there were 2 more specials, one in 1993 and one in 2003. The scores were high every time. Fans still missed Andy and Mayberry. as shown by this. But Mayberry's time was over. Andy had more stories to tell and new people to play. What happened next would shock people who have known it for a long time, the lawyer from the South who always won. Andy tried new things after leaving the Andy Griffith Show in 1968. Andy Griffith Enterprises was the name of the company he started in 1972. Over the years, he worked on a number of new TV shows such as The Yeagers, Headmaster, The New Andy Griffith Show, Adams of Eagle Lake, and Salvage One. But Mayberry was the biggest of them all. Andy had a health problem in 1983. He was paralyzed in his legs from Guillain-Barré syndrome and had to spend 7 months getting better. He didn't let that stop him, though. He came back to TV in 1986 with a new part as lawyer Ben Matlock for the first time. It took place in Atlanta, Georgia, on the show Matlock. Ben Matlock was smart, nice, and could always win in court. The way he spoke was very Southern, just like Andy, and wore plain clothes. Right away, everyone loved him. It was one of the most watched shows on Tuesday nights by the end of its first season. Young artists were also given a chance by the show. Conrad McMasters was played by Clarence Gilliard Jr., and Michelle Thomas was played by Nancy Stafford. Both stars watched Andy on TV as kids. These people were now stars with him. Even though Matlock was up for 4 Emmys, Andy was once again left out. Fans didn't care about the awards, though. Because of Andy, they watched. He got a People's Choice Award in 1987 for the part. Andy made up a new figure that people could believe in and cheer for. He was still going to be on screen. Between Matlock and Mayberry and all the shows in between, Andy has been on a lot of TV shows over the years. He was on many TV shows including Playhouse 90, Gomer Pyle, USMC, The Mod Squad, Hawaii Five-0, The Doris Day Show. Here's Lucy, the Bionic Woman, and Fantasy Island. He came back as Ben Matlock for one episode of Diagnosis Murder in 1997. In 2001, he made his last TV appearance in Dawson's Creek. But the story of the Andy Griffith Show began even earlier than most people think. It all started with an episode of The Danny Thomas Show. In the Danny Meets Andy Griffith episode, Danny's character is pulled over for going too fast in Mayberry. The whole show began with that short talk with Sheriff Taylor. Andy was already doing well in movies and plays at the time. Some people didn't want to be on a TV show, but Sheldon Leonard, a producer, saw something good in him. He told Andy about a new show based on that sheriff figure. At first, Andy didn't like the idea, but he liked Sheldon Leonard. He agreed then. Soon Andy would say yes for a different reason. He had more than half of the show in the end. That was a good choice. Andy was always clear that he didn't like shooting in front of real people. In a conversation with author Richard Kelly, he talked about it. He told her, "You have to tell jokes every so often, every few minutes, with the crowd. It's not funny to see the characters on most of those 3-camera shows. They have funny jokes. The problem comes from the viewers. You need to have fun with that small group of people. That's why you need to have jokes. Since there are no people watching when you shoot with one camera, the entertainment is based on the characters." That's better for me. Andy didn't want to look for easy laughs. He wanted to write about people, their feelings, their lives, and how they were connected to each other. That's what made Mayberry unique. That was what was different about Matlock. It was that made Andy Griffith so memorable. However, not everything on the Andy Griffith Show was easy. Even with all the charm and fame, they had a lot of trouble with love behind the scenes, back when it was hard to find love in Mayberry. Writing about love for Andy Griffith's show wasn't easy. Andy Griffith didn't often show affection in real life, which made it harder for him to show love on film. How Andy Taylor's relationships were put into the show showed how hard things were for him personally. They tried a bunch of different people at first to match Andy with, but nothing really worked. In the early seasons, Eleanor Donahue, who was already famous from Father Knows Best, played Ellie. She seemed smart, independent, and sure of herself on paper. But Eleanor didn't like playing the part. She said, "I felt like a bird that had been thrown out of its nest. I didn't think I had all of my feathers yet." She was signed on for 3 years, but she asked to leave after only 1 season. She wasn't sure of herself. Even though, afterward, she heard she was doing great, she told me that I wasn't happy and that there was no point in trying to keep going with it. After many years, Eleanor ran into Andy at an event and told him she was sorry she had to leave the show early. Andy, who was always nice, told her something she didn't expect. He said that they didn't know how to write for me, and Eleanor agreed that the chemistry might not have been there after all. She also said that they tried a lot of other people from time to time, but Annetta Corsott came in after that. Things changed when Annetta showed up. She and Helen on and off screen. Helen Crump, the neighborhood school teacher, was played by Annetta Corsott. As soon as she walked in, the romance had a different feel to it.